What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 game development live stream. We're back in our Deck Knight project, a game built from scratch using Unreal Engine 5, C++, blueprints, the gameplay ability system plugin, and all of that good stuff. So, with all that, we're going to start working on our weapon inventory component. Something we started designing a little bit ago. Very bare minimum stuff, but something I think we'll need just so we can inject state trees into the primary and secondary weapon slots. We have a centralized place where we can equip and unequip and kind of move around slot attachments like physical representations and things that we might need for these things. So we're going to see how much can be done in Blueprint just for the sake of quick iteration, and then we'll move to C++ once we feel comfortable in doing so. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's go, we'll do character, shared, and just in case we want to share things, we'll do weapons, right? And then we'll do player, character, or no, components. So we do have a weapon component already, which I guess we started. So we have a, sorry guys, please, excuse me. Something we already saw. We have primary weapon slot and secondary weapon slot. And we have this, right? We have an actor component. So what exactly do we need? And we can break it down in the context of a bow and arrow and the sword. So ideally, I don't know if I can. Well, of course I could do anything I want, right? But, so yeah, we have an object, right? Can we use objects to handle this? So let's see, BP underscore weapon base. Let's have an example of this. And we'll have to reconnect. Sorry for the no dark mode there. Shield your eyes, folks. Let's just connect to our Perforce server. And obviously we would have like an array of weapons or something, right? Or we would just have a primary slot and a secondary slot. So we could have an array of slots, I suppose. But what would consist of a weapon object? We would have like, we'll probably deal with soft references because we're losers. But based on our design, we need some physical representation, right? So we need, we gotta figure out what the base is. For skeletal meshes. So let's look at skeletal mesh. I don't know if it needs to be components or anything like that. Can it be just like a skeletal mesh? So there's skeletal mesh .h, but then there's skeletal mesh actor. Let's just do skeletal mesh. Let's see. Can we get to the class definition really quickly? Okay. So it's a skinned asset. Okay. So let's go to static mesh. Not much the same. So use streamable render asset. Seems to be a common base here. Curious if we can have that sort of set up. And then eventually would this be moved to like a data table? Do we have streamable anything? So we have static mesh. Like, do we want to say, like, what is a common, is it just a U object? And then we have to kind of cast it out. Let's see if we can find some information online. So, common class for static mesh and skeletal mesh. Because I would want to have the flexibility for this thing to at least take in for your weapon either a skeletal mesh or a static mesh or a combination if you need. Like, for example, bow and arrow, you'd have your bow. So they do not share a concrete mesh component base class, but they do share common parent classes. Well, there's... I don't want the component, though. It's like, as an object, I can't really have... Well, I guess I could have a component, right? So... For example, a static mesh component. Is it... It's not smart to really have these as components, though. So let's see them as objects, not as components. Now, I could have, options here, like not an array, but I guess a struct for these things. Wait, streamable render asset, but that's not blueprintable. So streamable, Atom streamable, but no. Okay, so let's do it this way. Can I we can stack mesh. We could say weapon. Oops. What is it? SM and SK or something. I don't want to use the term primary or secondary, just so I don't get confused with like slots or anything. So we could say something like weapon underscore. Not extra, but like. And also, do we want to like tag these things? Do we want them to be kind of maps or something? So that we could have like some lookup for it later, maybe. The weapon base, and then weapon, like basically the base is the sword, for example, or the bow, right? The next part of the weapon could be anything kind of extra, where it's like maybe it's the quiver, maybe it's a second dagger if we want to have dual wield daggers or something for aesthetic reasons. The weapon, I'll say extra, SM or SK in this sense. Does the collision also live in the weapon? No. Well, sort of. I guess it would have to be read by the trace system, because like for now, the weapon trails, they do kind of get the information. Let's look at one of the melees, actually. The melee. So, you know, we have the melee trace thing, we have melee trace, and then we have the handle, which is the data table row. And it gets it from the weapon. So yeah, we're gonna, right now I think it forcefully gets it, so we're gonna have to introduce this into the melee trace subsystem. So good call on that. We're gonna update that, and then we're gonna make sure the weapons have the weapon trace start and end, and all of that. So eventually, it's not gonna live in the weapon object. It's just gonna be, we're gonna be referencing it via the object, so we get the primary weapon slot or whatever slot, and pull the data from that instead of a hard-coded thing. And then we'll say weapon underscore projectile. That's for bow and arrow. I don't know if we'll need SK for that, but we'll see. So yeah. So right now it's a lot of redundancies, right? So we need also the slot. So weapon slot. I need state tree. These also need to be potentially soft references. I see. So the socket is inside the static mesh, and that's referenced by the data. Exactly. So basically, whenever we do the traces, if it's set to the weapon trace object type, because we could do either the character or the weapon. If it's from the weapon, right now, what do we do exactly? I think. Let's go to elf mail real quick. So I know there's a helper function, I think, right somewhere. So get weapon mesh component. So it passes in this this weapon component, and so yeah, we need to we pass it along manually that way. So we're going to have to feed into our inventory component and pass it along. So I'm wondering if we need to like construct components at runtime, or if it's enough for us to kind of say, okay, this is the primary weapon slot, we have it already by default, or is it the weapon inventory component that's responsible for creating these components, attaching it to the character, and kind of instantiating it with these like meshes and stuff. Maybe that's okay. We'll have to see. State tree override. So we have more or less physical representation, right? We have the logical representation, but now we need to figure out like attachment data, really. And how best to do that part of it. So we could have, you know, an array of transforms, or maybe an array of maps or something, where we have a mapping of what? A mapping of maybe fname to transform. Socket transforms, I guess, is the name for it. And we would just say, hey, you know, when it's attached, it's here. When it's not attached, it's there. Or when I say not attached, when it's not like active. Because like for example, you know, by default we would have the the sword here, right? But then when we activate the bow, you know, object here. Yeah. So when we have the bow, you know, the sword has to be put away and stowed, right? And vice versa. And you know, we have the bow that we're spawning in the hand as well. That's like the whole, you know, projectile mesh that we would want to spawn. So, you know, we're attacking, swords in our hand. We bring out the bow, sword has to go away, right? So these are the points that I'm kind of thinking about. So when the sword's stowed away, and when it's active in the hand. So how does that data need to look like, though? So is it going to be like, maybe these are all similar structs? Blueprint, structure. So we'll say F weapon data for now. And what's in this weapon data, right? So it's going to be a skeletal mesh. So weapon, skeletal mesh. Top reference. Could be a weapon, static mesh. Off reference. It's then not necessarily weapon slot that we care about, but then it would be potentially like basically a mapping of transforms, I suppose. So we could say, you know, active weapon transform data. Can this be a mapping? Similar mapping here where it's like equipped weapon transform data. So in theory, we could take all that crap out, or replace it with F weapon data. So container type cleared because F weapon does not have a get type hash function. Maps and sets require a hash elements. Okay, what's wrong with that? Seems fine. So we can have base weapon data. And there's like extra weapon data or like what's a synonym for secondary? Not much. Not many synonyms. Extra weapon data. Projectile. So that's all of that. So like in theory, let's make a duplicate of this sword. Not duplicate, let's make a child. So BP weapon underscore sword. Primary weapon slot, state tree override would be melee combo base, for example. So base weapon data, we can look at elf male. And right now it's a static mesh, but I think there's a version that's skeletal mesh. Sword prop SK, right? Well, maybe we could put both, then we just pick one. And then the active weapon transform data. This is what's tricky, because this is where we would have to kind of put in raw fname values. So right now it's like hand R socket. Right, that's like where we want it to be. And then the transform data would be how it is right now, right? So 0.75 in scale. And what was it? Minus 90? Or just, oh, so 90, 90, and 0, right? In the rotation. And then when it's equipped, that's where we have these callbacks here for when we toggle it, right? So when it's showing, it's here. When it's not showing, it's here, right? So we put it to spine 3. Similar to scale, so we got pretty much like, I wish I could copy these values. Like easily, right? So I don't think you can. No. Location. Scale can be the same. Rotation minus 100. This is more or less the data. And you got extra weapon data, which it doesn't have, projectile weapon data that it doesn't have. But then we have this weapon, right? And I don't. So let's open the base class. I don't see a weapon. So let's our character. So VP Declare weapons component. And then in this weapons component, right, we need, it could be an array. But we're gonna just do two different weapon bases for some reason, but okay. Oh god. Did I just crash the editor? No. So weapon base. Yeah, that's a good class. And then we load the data of the class and we construct all these things. So we're going to say primary weapon class. We'll do BP for weapon sort, right? Now, can I load? So async load class asset. Get class defaults. Okay, so I think I need to. Oh, I think I need to make these public. I get defaults now? No. Oh, okay. I need to cast to weapon base. Now should be the defaults, right? Yeah. Now I should be able to say what? I could first store this, right? I could say, so primary weapon, soft, that, pass that along. Now, promote this base weapon data, and break that. And then, yes, I would have to say, I would have to get which one's valid, right? So we'll just assume first skeletal mesh, and if it doesn't, bring it to static mesh, right? Now we have this weapon data. So what I would like to see is like create skin, what was it? Create component. So add component by class. And then is there like a skinned instant skin mesh component? We're taking the weapon component and attaching it, putting up a new attachment, right? In theory, I should just be able to. And I wonder if they're like the object should have like helper functions so that I could just say, hey, you know, create mesh component or something, or create skin mesh component, and it does this check internally in the weapon. But let's just make it happen, and we'll make it pretty later, as the kids say. Target is not an actor. I want to say get owner. Yo, Desense Gaming, what up? How we doing? Now let's go complain about the religion transform. No? Okay. So we're gonna say primary weapon. Before we even do that, we gotta store the actual meshes and load them in. Doing well, just at work until you were alive, so I wanted to pull up. Well, I appreciate that. I hope your day at work's going good. So if the skeleton mesh is valid, what do we want to say? Load? Async load. Can I ask a question about game dev? Of course you can. That's why I'm here. What's up? So this already tells me I need to like kind of encapsulate some of this logic into the weapon, just so I don't have such crazy shit going on. Now I can connect these two, create this. Now I should be able to set mesh, I hope. So there's set mesh deformer. Not really what I need, I guess. Set render static. So there's get skeletal mesh. But there's not really set physics asset, set scanned. I guess maybe I just need to add a component by class and just do it for each. So maybe this is why the weapon should be responsible for it. Just set up the component. Well, I'm a beginner and I'm super stuck. I started everything in Unity and I've watched countless tutorials, but going to the editor and sitting down writing code is becoming a huge block for me. And I feel like I don't know anything I've watched or read. Any tips on helping with this, or is it for another time? Well, I mean, I still struggle with coding every single day, so hopefully in the long run, hold on, whoops. I pressed something incorrectly. I still struggle with code all the time. I personally don't use Unity, so I can't really speak to that much, but when I've been trying to learn Godot, it's also been kind of a hassle. You know, it's all very daunting. Like, the only real advice that I have is to keep pushing through. You know, watching tutorials, you'll go, I forget what they call it, but like, you know, basically, don't get stuck in tutorial hell. Just try to start making your own stuff and research based on what you're trying to implement. When I was learning game dev, I was learning UDK. I mean, what made me choose Unreal is just because I've been learning it and using it in my professional career, and it's one of the first big engines that I learned back in school, and it kind of just stuck. Because they taught us Unity back then. It was 2010, 2011. So back then, Unity wasn't that great. Unreal wasn't that great either, to be fair. It was the UDK back then. They also did CryEngine. They did the Warcraft 3 editor. They did the Hammer editor, the Source editor. But yeah, Unreal stuck just because of Kismet back in the day, the visual scripting language that's now Blueprints that you're seeing. So I just kind of stuck with it. You know, the school project that I did back then was made in UDK. My first game dev job was in Unreal 4. I just did a bunch of tutorials with Unreal. Hey, thanks for the subscription there, man. Much appreciated. You didn't have to do that, but it's appreciated. So I just stuck with that and just been learning with it. And you know, luckily Unreal is still pretty popular. You know, people have their problems with it. I have my problems with it, but I enjoy it. I can't really say I don't know if I'll be able to build this project all by myself, but I'm at least kind of building systems and fun game. I hope to be fun gameplay, just to keep improving my skills. So, my only real advice is to keep pushing. I mean, like it's gonna suck for a while, but like come up with mechanics. Like, think of mechanics that you want to prototype, find a game that you really like playing, dissect a mechanic or a system in it, and just try to prototype a version of it and just see where that learning process goes, you know? Chin from YouTube says, do you have any tips for getting into the industry? So the only tip I have is, you know, the tip I give, like, a lot of people when they ask me. My advice is, how I did it is, I just kind of put myself out there. I had my YouTube channel. Well, I still have my YouTube channel, of course, but back then I was putting together tutorials. And with those tutorials, I was just learning and chatting on forums and just sharing knowledge. And then, you know, eventually people found that channel and I got offered to work on a Kickstarter. And then luckily that Kickstarter was successful, and that's what led me to get my first industry job in Serbia. So, you know, I had to travel from the States to Novi Sad, Serbia. So, you know, I also had to uproot my life, take a big risk, and work for a smaller studio, but it got my foot in the door. And then from there, when I applied to People Can Fly, a lot of the gameplay team had already watched a lot of my tutorials, and so I knew what I was talking about or doing. So I didn't really have to do much in terms of a technical test or anything like that. I pretty much aced the interview. And so I went to People Can Fly for 3 years. I had to move from Serbia to Poland, where I'm still at now. And so, yeah, I worked on Outriders for a bit. Not a bit, but I worked on Outriders for the last 3 years of it. And then I worked on the Worldslayer DLC. And then that's when, around 2021, is when CDPR announced that they were going to be using Unreal Engine. And so then I applied to CD Projekt Red, and I got that job again because of my work with People Can Fly. Some recommendations there, you know, people were familiar, and I aced the interview. And that's where I've been for, I guess, it'll be my 5th year in September. You were from the States, holy, that must have been huge. Yeah, it was a culture shock, you know. Serbia, it's a beautiful place, don't get me wrong, but It was very post communist building. It was a very smaller city, whole new world. Living by I've lived by myself before, but living in a country by yourself is a whole different ball game. But the people there are amazing. Experiences I had, amazing. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Is the blueprint coding thing a bad idea for a more beginner coder? I would say it's easier to go, it's easier to learn C++ and then go into blueprints than it is to go from blueprints into code. But it gives you, blueprints still give you that benefit of the programming mindset, but it is more laxed, more forgiving, so it lets you make mistakes and do things in unoptimal ways, whereas coding, you have to follow the syntax. It's going to give you a bunch of errors, like I've learned. So it depends on what you really want to do. If you want to become an engineer, just start writing in C++. You can use blueprints to get a sense of, the hierarchy of how the game is constructed. You have your game mode, game states, player controller, AI controllers. In this case, with the gameplay ability system, you have abilities, gameplay effects, you have all these different plugins. So it just depends on where you see yourself, where you want to be at. So I won't necessarily say it's a bad idea, but if you want to see immediate results and faster iteration times, that's typically the point of blueprints. Let's see, instanced skeletal mesh. Well, hopefully that advice made sense. Do static mesh component. We do instance static mesh component. Yes. We say primary weapon static mesh component. Okay, I really want to be an indie dev and create small games, not looking to how to make money since I don't have my first day job. Sorry, since I don't mind my day job. I just want to make things for fun and share with people. It made sense for me. It made sense for sure. I'm just going to have to keep pushing until it cooks, I guess. Yeah, and, if it's smaller games you want to make, then definitely Unity or Godot is the way to go. So, if you have a small game idea, that's even better. If you want to give yourself some time pressure, do game jams, just to give yourself a sense of direction. So you have a theme, you have something to kind of organize your thoughts around, and then you have a time limit just to kind of throw something together. And most times, your first game jam, you're probably not going to even finish the thing. That's usually how it goes. So don't beat yourself up when you fail. Give yourself some grace while you're learning. Because you'll be learning the whole time you're making games. You'll always learn something new, try to do something better, do something different. So now let's see. Well, let's look at weapon, sword. So not really a get. Is there a get value? Index? No. Well, I guess I could just do that, right? First index. Yeah, I'm not ready for a game jam, I feel. since I'm still struggling to create a good 3D character movement script, I'm probably making it hard trying to learn 3D game dev or 2D game dev. Yeah, that's fair. Like, working with sprites is I guess, easier than working with, animated mesh, skeletal mesh with full 3D animations. Also, Unreal has Paper 2D, so you can learn that as well. But yeah, just don't get into the habit of just watching tutorials nonstop and just recreating what you see in the tutorials, because I don't think you're really going to go far just by doing that. Like, they're a good kickoff point, but, don't get sunken into it. So now we have to get owner. We're going to cast this to character. So how do we do this before? So everything's attached to the mesh, right? So we can grab the mesh. Then we can do attach component, socket name. Parent is this. So snap to target, and then we can do set relative transform. Well, in theory, this should work to at least have something show up. Understood. What was your favorite game that you've worked on and has been published? Well, there hasn't been that many games that I've worked on that have been published. I worked on, so my first game was, well, my college project was called The Afflicted. Never really was fully released. But it was like a 3-team multiplayer shooter game where you scoured for resources to build up bases and stuff like that, and you had to kill each other across levels that would progressively open up. To be fair, I think it was ahead of its time. It was like 2011, 2012. And after that, I worked on Aquanox Deep Descent, which was like a spiritual successor of Aquanox. It's like underwater, not submarine, but underwater vehicle combat. That had a lot of challenges to it. How to like kind of simulate the feeling of being underwater in a game and stuff was pretty interesting. But so my favorite one is Outriders and Outriders World Slayer. It's the newest one that I had released. Came out in 2020. I think it was April 1st, 2020. Or April 1st, 2021. Well, I was still in People Can Fly when that came out, so I think, did I leave in 2021 or 2022? Maybe I left in 2022. But yeah, Outriders and Outriders World Slayer, really proud of those. In the moment, I was frustrated with that project, just because I felt overworked and burnt out. But, time heals all wounds, and looking back on it, I think it was a really, really fun game. A lot of cool stuff was there. A lot of cool build, crafting, mechanics. And now working on Witcher 4. So hopefully when that comes out, it'll be my next favorite. So let's see, in theory, what would happen. Like, obviously I'm gonna break this get mesh weapon mesh component, right? If I were to, I don't want to explicitly delete this, but I might have to. So I'll leave that. Anything else? So I should be able to just delete weapon. So let's see if we have the sword in our hand. Okay, we don't. but it is so cool though, right? Okay, so what happened? We can go from begin play, right? So we put in the sword for the primary weapon. So we got here, we get here, we come down here, we go, we go, we go. We get here, we get here, we get here, we get here. Okay, so I think the issue is we didn't set the mesh. So we should be able to say set skeletal mesh asset. Should be able to just do that. Oh, that's the component. So where is this one? So this hopefully will work now. Now we have a bunch of breakpoints everywhere. Let's try that one more time. Okay, now we have our sword in our hand, right? So honestly, our traces are going to be broken. Oh yeah, we still have that event. We were testing some stuff in State Tree. Let's delete that event. Base one. This one. We can just delete this task. Boom. So see, we have our primary weapon, but again, collision shapes, it's gonna fail, right? Because we're not really pulling the information yet. Outriders looks interesting. I'm not sure how it went under my radar. I mean, like when it came out, there was a pretty bad bug where it would wipe people's inventories, so it kind of left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But you know, over time, after we patched it, and with the Worldslayer DLC, I think it turned out pretty good. So I don't know how much it is now. Got it. Oh, recent reviews mostly positive, but yeah, it's mixed because of all the reviews and people were upset, understandably so, about the pricing for the DLC and stuff. You know, this review at the top here by Thomas Peanut. He was one of the designers on Outriders and the Worldslayer DLC, so you know, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, in general, it's good. So definitely check it out. It's 75 zloty and 120 zloty for the complete edition. So that's what, like $20, $25 maybe for the base, and then maybe like $40 for the complete edition. So if you have the money for it, I definitely recommend it. Okay, so we have the weapon component working for the sword. So now, like, what can we really do? Like, feel like like to me, it makes sense to kind of like really just move all of this into the weapon, right? I rewatched the Outriders talk about the gameplay ability system many times. Is that the one by Kuba? I always forget his last name, but because he's my, you know, I worked with him on Outriders, and he eventually joined us at CD Projekt. If that's the talk you're referring to, I guess I could look it up too. I think I just saw it. Ah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. This presentation will take around 30 minutes, so it's not the longest one.
So we can look at it real quick
And I
once
just
it
want to
loads.
mention
Yeah,
that
that's Kuba.
I will not tell you how to use actually ability system. It will just be just more a case study how we use it in
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Ultradear Sword Slayer. So I hope you're gonna be inspired with it somehow.
Yeah, so Kuba's now with us at CD Projekt.
My name is Jakub Kapuściński-Bernatek.
I always forget his last name because it's like a hyphenated Polish combo last name. But yeah, cool guy.
Working with Unity, with VR games. Then I switched to Unreal Engine, and last 4 years I'm working with People Can Fly on Project Outriders, Outriders Sword Slayer, and currently on project called Gemini.
Oh yeah, Gemini was the canceled sequel of Outriders.
In few words, what is ability system?
So yeah, definitely check that out, gang, if you feel like watching. So I would have to construct the object from the class in order to kind of invoke any kind of functions to it. Yo, bro, what's up, Vovin? How you doing? Got 3 bros in a row. Hello. So yeah, like I feel like this should be something that should be moved to the weapon. So if we go to the weapon base, like I don't think it could be event. It has to be events because there's some asynchronous things going on here. But we could say construct, base weapon component. And we could pass along in this event like the owner. So I guess it has to be actor. So owning actor. And we can just do like that, right? So we can more or less plug this in there. And then we got our constructing stuff. So like ideally this would be, once we move things to C++ down the line, this could be something we can clean up. Let's just confirm that this works. We don't have any sort of regression. So we can't really do async load inside of UObject, it seems. Let's see how much we can get away with it, though. A function is unsafe to call from blueprints of class object without connecting a world context object, but it doesn't have an exposed world context object. Refreshing the node doesn't change anything. So yeah, we can't really kind of do load asset blocking. Technically we can. Let's just try that and just see how bad it is. Now in our weapon component, right? Now I should be able to call this construct base weapon, right? We still have the weapon. That's good. And for example, just to prove that it's working, we could check out a different sword. Skeletal mesh and a mesh. What are we doing here? We're working on a basic weapon, quote-unquote weapon inventory component where we're able, hopefully, to be able to construct primary and secondary weapons with some data about, you know, the slot, the state tree to override, transform data, socket data in which to attach it and when to equip it, things like that. So we're kind of blueprinting our way through some stuff, seeing if it works, and then eventually we'll move things to C++. So yeah, let's look. Let's pick literally any other sword, right? Oh god. Oh my god. Boo boo. This cat is fucking crazy. So if we replace this sword with this sword, right? We should see. Yeah. Now we got a giant ass sword, right? What's this, what? Why is this sword so fucking big? That's kind of funny. But yeah, so it proves that it works. Let's put the normal sword back. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we gotta double it and give it to the next guy. Absolutely right. So now we have things like extra weapon data, which is like the quiver of a bow and arrow setup, and then the projectile mesh could be for, you know, the type of bow you're shooting, or if we create like a magical staff, basically the visuals of the projectile that we would spawn, we would inject that in as well. And all these, I believe, are soft references. So if we go to size map, not true. So we have BP weapon base, which casts to elf character base. So we should be able to not cast to elf character base like this. I think we should be able to just cast to player character. Get the mesh that way. Size map again. Do I have to like save it again? There it is. So much less. And then if we go to sword, size map, also small, right? So we load everything at runtime when we need it. So now what do we gotta do? So my cat gonna jump back up here again. Oh, boo. Oh my god, she's crazy. Are you using component? Yeah, I'm using a weapons component that is responsible for instantiating and holding onto the primary and secondary weapons. But the weapons themselves are just object classes that have data, which, you know, one could argue it could be a data asset that's handled in C++ rather than an object. Look at this cat. Look at this cat. He's crazy. He's jumping all over the place. Oh. Get out of here. So, you know, it could be a data asset. In the long run, it could also be like a data table handle, you know, where it's like, okay, this is literally just the handle, and then it pulls the data and constructs the data from the handle, so you can kind of have a whole table full of weapons, and then you could maybe potentially unlock one, you know, a special version of a sword or something. I don't know if I want. I probably would go that far, but we'll see. So again, just to prove the point, we should have a sword now. All is good. So what I want to do next as well, I kind of want to, let's see. Like I want to, so here's my weapon component here with the sword. I don't know if I want to say construct the base weapon component. You know, I could, when I say construct, like I could say all it does is up to here, right? And then from here, this is where we quote unquote like activate it. So we can make another custom event. Be like activate weapon. And then what we could do is, again, we would need to probably store this. Whoops. I love components because it makes it easier to use in other projects. I can see how a data table works, but I see that it will take more time to use in another project. Well, ideally, it would be a component still that interprets the data table and constructs things from the data table. And then, so you bring the component over and you just create a new data table with similar data, whatever you need. It could work. But now what I want to do, is there any variables I don't need? Oh, I need all of that, right? So what I should be able to do is get the player state, pass this to state, yes, of course, player state. That's the problem. I would not want to make a new data table. That's fair. But you would have to construct the data anyway. So, and you can also import data tables as long as the struct exists in the new project. So there's run state tree. Let's go to the player state. Okay, so it's not the player state. It's the player controller. Whoopsie and doopsie. So get controller. Pass to gas player controller. State tree now, right? Now we should be able to do what? Override? Add link state. Override. Code requested. Hey, your videos are awesome. Thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for popping in and saying hello. So the state tag is going to be what? Let's go into the player controller and double check. So essentially what we're going to do, we're going to nuke this player combo entry. I need to delete this entry. Why can't I? Is there like a delete button? my logo? Let's delete this and just add one again. Let's just add the range as an example. So with just the range, I'm only able to use so I'm not able to use anything. Uh-oh. No. Oh no. Let's see. The tag didn't copy over. So secondary, I think I called it. State tree override secondary. So now, yeah, still no, I can't. What did I do? Oh. Pretty sure everything's set up correctly, right, with these input listeners. So let's double check. Who we have? So it's not even given. But what? What the hell happened? putting things back as they were. Now I can do it. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, I'm not seeing... I'm going to leave it at that, right? So, what I believe I need to do... Because again, you know, sword's not even there anymore because, you know, we construct it, but then we don't also activate. It's visible, but yeah, we're still not able to left click spam. What I should be able to do now is get the primary weapon. And of course, this is where we would need to kind of branch off and say, hey, are we the primary weapon slot or not? But now it's fine. So this is taking an object, which we have, at least we should. Seems like it's a... So we can't get that way. Can I promote to a variable? Do it that way. So my concern is now like my size map it's gonna be too much. Go back into our sword, melee combo base. And let's look at the size map again. Okay. Much still bigger because of all the asset references and stuff like that. So is there a way to do this better? You have to make reference, but it doesn't really give you much to do with that. So, is there anything else with overrides? No. So let's see if this does anything. So, no. Let's just confirm that we get here. Do. Can I say, what's the word? Start, I think? Delay until next tick. We're kind of just do delay. No. For the player controller. these barrels. Just to confirm, you put melee base in. Does it work? Doesn't. Don't do this. Does it work? Confused as to why. It's like if I put these both back now, does it work? Yeah. Weird. Now, do something like that. Still doesn't work. So that's fine. But then I do this. Hmm. Just want to see if this will work. So primary weapon, override. Are you using state tree in production? I still need to explore it a little bit. Yeah, we're using state tree here for the player, and probably for the enemy AI when we get there. It's gonna be a long ass time before we get there, but for now it works okay. Like there's still a lot of issues with it, but I'm trying to work around them. That doesn't work. Restart the logic. What needs to happen? I'm gonna delay 2 seconds and trying again. Spam for 2 seconds. Do I eventually do it? I could have sworn I set this up correctly. Yeah, did something stupid. Maybe don't start logic automatically. No. Okay. If I just start the logic. La, 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 la. No. I'm gonna put it in ranged basic. What if I put melee in this one? Yeah, so for some reason, Like, not all of them are linked correctly. Like, we got the basic melee, but now our ranged is not correctly initiated. But our melee combo base is twice. For whatever reason. Is it because of this? Oh, I'm going to add 10 seconds to this. Play. Record. Here. And then after 10 seconds, now we have like 3 of them. That's interesting. But if I then so let's not do this here, right? Let's just nuke that. Let's do 5 seconds. For whatever reason, there's a shit ton of stage. Why? Let's see what happens. I really don't understand. So now there's none. Which is fine. Oh. For whatever reason, we have a billion state trees being populated. Oops. How many times are we getting activate button, I guess? Is my question. Let's not create a bunch of fucking state trees. So, only once. Okay. That's cool. But we only get that called once, but for whatever reason, I'm getting so many copies of melee combo base. Which isn't really making sense. Still getting a bunch of melee combo base. No. Still a shit ton. Oh. Now, what if I were to add this in the component or something, right? Can I get defaults? Can I get the state tree reference? Can I do it manually? This way, without issue? Grab you. Let's do that. Now, let's confirm again that now, right, we only have this. Nothing is happening, right? So now if I connect this, do I get a shit ton of melee base again? I don't. That's good. But I'm confused as to... Let's see if this even passes. Let's just go. Yeah, it does. Now, if I do not start automatically... Now it's, again, shit ton melee base. Again, a bunch of melee combo base, which I'm not understanding why. Because we have the parent here, and we just have the run parallel. Do I have to first do remove? I don't think it's gonna help, but let's see. Still. Still a bunch. Super confused. As one should be. But yeah, we'll stream for a couple more minutes and then we'll call it a night and try to figure this out. It's not making much sense to me. Like, it's only on the one begin play of the component. If I just do it once. I think that's gonna matter. I remember what still a buttload. Like, I'm curious as to what the difference is between doing it this way, which seems fine, or it doesn't. Unless it's a bug. Let's try to reopen the editor just to be sure. Then yeah, we'll call it a night. Redeemed hydrate? I don't know. I have one more sip of sugar-free Monster left. I will hydrate. Let's look at the player controller again. We have melee combo base and primary weapon override. Let's see, nothing works. Seems like I'm losing a lot of frames. And yeah, I have a bunch. Oh, state tree. No! Why? So I'm not adding here, and I'm not adding it there anymore. Like literally just the one state tree override, but for some reason it's breaking. Okay, so now that works fine. I have confusion. Let's check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. Yeah, that's just the two. Is it because I set these as not... Is it because it was running parallel over and over and over again? Maybe? So let's do an experiment. Take that out. We shouldn't have anything working. We should only have SD parent. Okay, not even. It's fine. And then we'll do it in the component. Forget to do once. See if this does anything. After 5 seconds. Okay. Seemed to work, okay. So I guess the problem was in here, the run parallel state tree, it says basically it was toggling completion, both of these. And so they were running, but I guess if nothing was there, something was in there, it was just completing this task, going back into weapon, running it again, running it again, running it again. So should be good. Let's just see if this also works if I do it through the weapon base. Sing song and dance. Seconds. There we go. Boom. Okay. So I don't think I have to wait 5 seconds. I think I should be able to just restart the logic. immediately. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So we're making baby steps. We're getting the weapon in the hands. We're overriding the stage tree component. But then we need to do the same thing for the bow. And then we have to create a second weapon for, like, I don't know, dagger or greatsword or something. And then start integrating some additional stuff in there. Like, you probably would want to have like a defensive, because we have block, for example, but maybe defensive actions need to be like its own thing in the weapon state tree as well. Like, basically weapon specific abilities and stuff. So like each one will have the same sort of like central dodge, right? I could just use choosers to know which weapon you have and maybe use a different dodge or something, but could also be just unified. We'll see. So yeah, that's where we're going to end it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Since there is a good amount of us, we should be able to raid. So let's raid. We'll raid cakes. So we're gonna raid. Oops, no, that's not how you do it. Haven't raided in a while. So yeah, thanks to everyone for watching. It's all really appreciated. If you aren't already following me here on Twitch, make sure to send over a follow. Make sure to subscribe there on YouTube. All the support is much appreciated. So enjoy your night. I'll see you guys on Thursday. And see you soon.
Much for raiding too. I appreciate it, man. Welcome. Hello, guys. Okay. Tested in the web. Yeah, you said tested in the web. Let's see. One more build. No, Stardew Valley uses linear filtering, bro, on the texture. It does use linear filtering, otherwise it would look bad here too. Watch. When it applies the light to the scene. Wait, no, that's UI, isn't it? I said that. Oh, wait, where it transitions from game to UI. Here. Got it. So here, this application, this sampler is linear. I told you. Because it needs to be linear. Otherwise, this texture would be pixelated. And I don't know how many pixels that is. That is 1 pixel.